Okay, so I usually start by talking about the plot, or the characters, or, setting up the story or the review in some way, but honestly, I just have to address the elephant in the room. And no, I don't mean the two war elephants. What the hell is that CG? Oh my god, you call that a face? I just don't even with this animation. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, welcome one and all, I am Coriander Stone, and today I present a review of the 2012-2013 anime, Kingdom. This is the story of ancient China, of its spring and autumn warring states period, an era so brutal and violent that it was known as the Dragon. And when you look at that, even with the bad animation, at least we still get a pretty damn cool CG dragon. Take that, Studio Dean. Over 100 nations were destroyed as though burned by the dragon's fierce flames, leaving only 7 behind. Yan, Qi, Zhao, Wei, Han, Chu, and Qin. Now from Qin, the westernmost nation, a great wind of history is beginning to blow. This is the story of a young king and a nameless boy who rode the gauntlet together in this age of history. The story begins by introducing us to two of the main characters, protagonist Shin and his best friend Piao. The two are basically brothers, growing up together as war orphans and servants with nothing to their names except their own strength. But boy are they strong. And of course they also have a dream. That dream is to go to the battlefield and become the greatest generals in the history of the world. But the boys aren't content to just sit around and wait for their dreams to come true. Oh no, they train day in, day out. Character and personality-wise, Shin is hot-headed and a bit of an idiot, while Piao is calmer and a lot more clear-thinking. When the OP played for the first time and I realized that it was Shin and not Piao who's going to be the central protagonist, I was actually quite disappointed, since to me Piao seemed the more appealing character, while Shin seemed like the hot-headed lead character you find in every shonen, be it Blue Exorcist, Inuyasha, Fairy Tail, or Bleach. Actually an assessment that sells Shin short as a character. Shin is really well written, actually. He starts out as this hot-tempered kid, but he grows and develops so much over the course of the series. It's quite the shock after finishing Season 2, going back to the beginning of Season 1 and looking at how young and immature he was. And as for generic shonen lead, yeah, he's really freaking strong, but that strength doesn't feel like a deus ex machina or plot device, but rather like something he's earned. After training with Piao for so many years, of course he's really good at swordplay, of course he's strong. For all his strength, Shin isn't invincible. He loses. A lot. There are just characters who are so much stronger than him that he doesn't have a shot in hell. And the story isn't afraid to do that. It isn't afraid to make characters that are way out of his league. And Shin's losses have real consequences because when he loses, other characters suffer and die for it. That's the thing about Kingdom. When Shin loses, people die. Giving Shin's fights weight and consequences isn't something Kingdom shies away from, any more than it shies away from killing off characters. And that's something I love about it. Kingdom isn't an anime with conventional good guys and bad guys. It goes out of its way to give enemies, and especially enemy generals, development and backstory, sometimes even more development and backstory than it gives to Qin's generals. Additionally, for a good part of the story, Qin is the attacking invader, not the defender, and the enemies are just people trying to defend their home. It's not an idea that Kingdom feels the need to shy away from, and of course its characters are all very much aware of that, especially Zhang. Speaking of Zhang, Zhang is our other protagonist. I guess just talking about Zhang at all, or really even showing him, is a bit of a spoiler, so I've got to kind of... Kingdom? What gets you sucked in despite the bad animation is the first episode is really damn good with 2 really great plot twists. And I don't want to spoil either of them, so I highly recommend you go watch the first episode. Yeah, I know it's double length, but trust me, it is so worth watching that before getting the rest of it spoiled. Anyway, I'm going to try to talk around first episode spoilers as much as physically possible, but to talk about Zhang, I do need to bring them up at least a little bit, so be warned, I guess. King Zhang is the 31st king of the Kingdom of Qin. Kingdom Qin. Wow, there's a tongue twister for you. Anyway, as a 14-year-old on the throne, Zheng doesn't really hold the power of the kingdom. In fact, he is so powerless that when his younger half-brother teams up with his minister on the left to overthrow him, he sees the coup coming but can't do anything to stop it. Zheng is a character who fascinated me right from the very beginning, and that's because he's a prince, well, actually king, driven from his home. That's not exactly unusual, but the thing is, those sorts of characters come in two types. Super over-innocent and sheltered and kind, like Prince Arslan from the heroic legend of Arslan, or pampered and entitled, like Chagrin from Morabito, Guardian of the Spirit, and Yona from Yona of the Dawn. Or I suppose there's also bitter and conniving, like Luffy Britannia from Code Geass and Silver Mask from the heroic legend of Arslan. But anyway, the point is that Zheng doesn't fall within any of these categories, and that's what fascinated me. He doesn't seem naive or foolish, he knows what the world's like. He's not vengeful or bitter, and he certainly doesn't have any sense of entitlement or arrogance. Yes, he can be cold and detached, but you get the feeling that that's just because he's used to everyone around him having a second agenda and not really having people close to him, as opposed to him being an actually nasty or self-centered person. Additionally, one of my favorite things in Kingdom is watching the calculating, detached Zheng and the hot-headed, down-to-earth Shin interact and play off of each other. It's really quite the combination, and it's really quite enjoyable. Watching them slowly become friends despite their myriad differences is actually really satisfying. Speaking of that growing relationship, our third lead, Diao, is, yes, a mouthful, and yes, there's a human under that thing. Anyway, Diao is part of that growing relationship. He's a kid who takes up with Shin and Zheng in the second episode, and at first I was like, I get it, here's the mascot character, cute and adorable as always. But no, Diao is actually a really strong character. He grows and develops over the course of the series, just like all the other characters, and that growth and development is what makes Diao so great. He's barely in the second season at all, and when he shows up at the end, you can really see how much he's grown and changed during his time off screen, and that was something I really appreciated. The final lead is Kyunlei. She's not actually introduced till the second arc, and okay, I'm gonna keep using she because there's no way anyone watching is gonna buy that's a guy. That's the thing in Kingdom. If a character looks like a girl and has a female voice actor, and all the characters are calling them a guy, they're a girl. It's quite the repetitive theme in Kingdom's first season. Anyway, I can sum Kyunlei up with two words: assassin strategist. Yeah, how's that for a combination? It's every bit as awesome as you'd expect. She's a badass, and she's a really fun character to watch, and she develops a ton over the course of the series. I can't really say anything about her without spoilers, but she's just really great. Actually, yeah, the entire cast of Kingdom is pretty damn great. With the exception of like one or two of the antagonists from the first arc, all of Kingdom's antagonists are well-written, well-rounded, and I even hesitate to call them antagonists because they're just people. They're just people who happen to live in kingdoms other than kin and happen to end up the enemies of the main characters, through no fault of their own and no evil deeds. Probably the only exception to that is the skiing minister Lu Buwei. He's one I could actually call a villain. The cast is really great, and while I don't have time to talk about most of the rest of the cast, I do want to quickly mention two other major characters from the second season, Ming Tian and Wang Ben. Ming Tian is a light-hearted noble who's laid back, relaxed, and just happens to be a brilliant tactician, oops. And Wang Ben is pretty much his exact opposite. Hard, commanding, and rather stuck up. They're both really enjoyable characters, and definitely make the second season quite the entertaining fun fest. Oh, quick historical context for the series. The Spring and Autumn Warring States era came to an end when Shi Huangdi became the first emperor of all of China and founded the Qin dynasty. Yes, I did say the Qin dynasty because Shi Huangdi is the name taken on as emperor by a man who was none other than Ying Zheng, 31st king of Qin. So this really is the story of Ying Zheng as he sets out to unify all of China. But first has to get his own throne back, whoops. Also, that's an interesting point for the story, since by telling you this up front, you know that Zheng is not only going to get his throne back, but also conquer all of China. What becomes interesting at this point is how he gets there, and that's what really carries the story, because you really do want to know how, since there are all sorts of strategies and machinations behind it. And that's one thing Kingdom specializes in: strategies and strategists. Seriously, there are like 20 or 30 strategists in this show? And they each have their own unique ways of thinking about things, especially the ones who get more development. And not all of them are from kin. There are a whole host of strategists, each with their own unique twists, and watching them play back and forth against each other is really fun. In terms of music and animation, well, the music is damn good. I love both OPs, and it has a really awesome soundtrack. Both OPs and all 6 EVs are really great, but my special favorite is definitely Glory Days, the second opening, which just captures the amount of hype and fun in the arc while also having some badass music and animation. Now, is that hype or what? Now you're looking at that animation going, wait, is that the same animation, same studio, same show as the beginning? Yes, that's the thing. While the animation, especially at the beginning of the first arc, really frigging sucks, it gets better as it keeps going. So much better. Even the CG improves over the course of the first season, but then the second season, oh my god, it's just so much prettier. Seriously, when they do a good job, the animation can actually look quite pretty, especially the beautiful backgrounds. To sum up, I got into Kingdom when once again looking for a way to fill that Arslan-shaped void in my life. And, surprisingly, I finally found a show that actually does it. Kingdom is a fabulous story with amazing characters and some really funny comedy, and lots of dark and intricate plotting. I feel like on the final markup I really should take off points for that horrid animation, but the thing is, the writing is so good that it makes the show, enjoyable despite its awful animation. It made me want to sit through that multiple times. I mean, that's how good the writing is, and with writing that good, I feel like it should almost get bonus points for canceling out that horrid animation. Hell, I watched the second episode, right? And with that as my rationale, I'm going to go ahead and give Kingdom the rating that I really want to give it, and that is 6 out of 5 stars. It's a rating I reserve for only the very best anime I've seen, and one I think Kingdom definitely deserves. For alternate anime recommendations, I want to start by pointing you toward, but of course, the heroic legend of Arslan. What else? For another story in a very similar vein, just taking place in Pars, and with a bit less historical context. My next recommendation goes to Moribito Guardian of the Spirit, for a show with a lot of similarities in premise and setting, but much more slow-paced and relaxed. And my final recommendation goes to The Legend of the Legendary Heroes, for another show about politics and the intricacies of multi-kingdom management, although this one with a bit more fantastic take. Now then, that's the end of the review, so please like and subscribe and let me know what you think down in the comments. In the meantime, I'm gonna go and read the Kingdom manga, because it's not like we're getting a 3rd season of this anytime soon. Still bitter. Or a 3rd season of Arslan. Still bitter. And if you've got all that free time because you're waiting for a 3rd season also, why don't you head over to my channel and check out some of my other videos. This is Coriander Stone, and I thank you for watching.